2016's presidential candidates aim to change the race as huge Tuesday primaries loom. How the Ebola outbreak impacted children's vaccination programs in Liberia. And the 106-year-old viral star who charmed the Obamas celebrates another milestone. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Well, Tuesday looms as a major day in the U.S. presidential race as 5 large states hold primaries, including the delegate-rich Florida and Ohio. Tuesday's primaries come amid the backdrop of growing concern about protests and the confrontational tone of the campaign of Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has a preview from Washington.
I guess I have to do it myself. I know it's not...
Secret Service agents rushed to protect Republican contender Donald Trump at a recent rally in Ohio after a protester ran toward the stage. Trump said later he was ready to fight back.
I don't know if I would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
Trump canceled a rally in Chicago Friday because of protests, and another rally in Kansas City was marred by clashes both inside and outside the speaking venue. Despite the chaos, polls suggest Trump could do well in the Tuesday primaries.
We have a movement going on, folks. This isn't just us here. This is all over the country. Same thing is happening.
Trump's rivals have denounced both the protesters and his confrontational tone, including Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who criticized what he called the politics of fear.
To embrace leaders that do not ask you to give them their vote on fear and hopelessness, but instead to vote for them on the basis of how great our country can be if we do what needs to be done.
Trump's biggest challenge appears to be in Ohio, where he's locked in a close race with the state's governor, John Kasich.
I don't think he's going to be the nominee. I'm going to win in Ohio. We're rising all across the country.
A Kasich victory in Ohio could slow Trump's march to winning enough delegates to receive the Republican nomination, says Henry Olson.
It's very difficult to see somebody getting 1237 other than Trump. But if Trump has a 70% chance of winning, it means he has a 30% chance of not. And I'd say it's a 30% chance that you will have an open convention.
I know how to get results.
In the Democratic race, frontrunner Hillary Clinton is favored in most of the 5 states voting on Tuesday. Clinton, however, continues to be challenged by rival Bernie Sanders.
We're doing something pretty radical in American politics. We're telling the truth.
Besides Florida and Ohio, primaries are being held Tuesday in Illinois, Missouri, and North Carolina. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
But for the latest on the primaries, VOA's Aru Pandey joins us live from Florida. Aru, first tell us how has been the mood throughout the day?
Well, you have people on both sides. You have the Democrats who are eagerly waiting and wanting Clinton to take the state. And then you have the Republicans who are divided. Marco Rubio, of course, their senator here from Florida. He wanting the big win here. This is make or break for him. And then, of course, we have the Trump supporters, and there are a number of them here in Florida, all wanting to see him win the nomination. So it really is a very divided state in that regard.
It is so divided in that there are those who may want to stop Trump and therefore probably vote for Rubio. But for Rubio, if he doesn't win this might end his political career, right?
This is basically make or break for Marco Rubio. If he does not win this state, he really does not have a campaign left. And it also could hurt his own political career. He's a senator here from Florida, and he, in his own state, is down some 20 points, some polls say, to Donald Trump. So it doesn't look good for his political career, but it also doesn't look good for his campaign going forward. Many say that if he doesn't win this state, that is it, his campaign is over. But you touched on an important point. People here voting for Rubio in order to make sure that Donald Trump does not win the Republican nomination. Florida is a state where if you win the state, you win all 99 delegates. So this is a key state for the Republican voter, and it's key for Republicans who want to stop Trump from winning the nomination. So a vote for Rubio, yes, it would mean a big win for him in his home state, but it would also mean slowing that roll for Trump to the Republican nomination.
Besides those candidates, what is really important to the voters of Florida?
Well, I tell you what, I've been in the Miami area and I've talked to a lot of the Latinos, a lot of the minority voters, and they are afraid. They're afraid of what a Donald Trump will mean for the United States. I went and spoke to an immigrant coalition yesterday. They are actually trying to get more and more permanent residents to become American citizens in order to vote in November. And you know who's driving people to become U.S. citizens? Donald Trump. A lot of the Latinos, a lot of the minorities here say they are very afraid of some of the rhetoric that's coming out of his campaign and also out of some of his rallies. And they do not want to see him win the nomination, and they're very afraid of that. So you see people here, at least among the Hispanic vote, the African-American vote, really mobilizing to make sure that Trump does not win the nomination. But in the end, in Florida, it looks like Trump is going to take it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the days and weeks ahead.
We'll be watching. Thank you very much, Aru. Viewers, Aru Panda reporting live from Florida. We're turning now to the deepening European migrant crisis. There was more frustration among migrants and refugees as Macedonia sent about 1,500 of them back to Greece after they crossed the border on Monday. An official said most of the migrants who marched out of the Idomeni transit camp in northern Greece on Monday and got around the border fence had been taken back to Greece on Monday or overnight on trucks. Greece's Deputy Defense Minister Dimitris Vitsas, however, said he could neither confirm nor deny the reports. Reporters and aid officials on the scene said the migrants had been left at the Greek border and that there were migrants on both the Greek and Macedonian sides. Now, for the latest on the European refugee crisis, reporter Philip Warwick joins me live by phone from Idomeni, Greece, on the border with Macedonia. First, Philip, tell us what is the situation with the crossing from one side to the other? Is it ongoing?
No, it's not ongoing. Now, what happened yesterday is that as the 1,500 refugees approached the gap in the fence, they were shadowed by Macedonian police and then hence arrested as well as journalists. So you have now Macedonian police and army reinforcing the fence and patrolling the fence, so preventing any further crossing.
Now, things look really bad in the camps. There was flooding there. What are authorities saying now they need to do in order to help those thousands of refugees?
Well, today we had the European Commission for Migration, Dimitris Avramopoulos, and he came here to actually get a first-hand understanding of what's the situation in the camp. He visited representatives of the UNHCR and Médecins Sans Frontières and Frontex, which is the international border police force. What he said was that the European Commission was going to use all its available resources to support Greece in terms of addressing the emergency situation and improve the border management, as well as provide now a more, let's say, coherent logistical relocation process for the refugees to be moved out from the Idomeni camp to other camps all around Greece.
So officially, though, borders remain closed, which means refugees are not allowed to cross from Greece to Macedonia, right?
That is correct. The border has been closed now for the past 8 days. Last time was not. It was the Sunday beforehand, where you had 64 migrants. Just to mention very quickly is that the migrants that were deported from Macedonia yesterday night, this morning I came across a few men who have looked visibly beaten, bruised and grazed and who had claimed that they had been assaulted and beaten by Macedonian police. So that's what I was told, and the claims from men that they were beaten by Macedonian police when they were arrested, when they had crossed the border yesterday afternoon.
Very quickly, is there evidence that the more are arriving in Greece?
This morning I saw about, if we're talking about the Idomeni camp, I saw about, in the space of an hour, I saw about 100 people arrive now this evening. As it's around 6:40, I've seen about 50 to 75 more people, migrants, refugees, come to the camp. And then if we're talking about the Greek islands themselves, we have about 8,000 which made the journey this week. So we have now about 40,000 in Greece, with 12,000 at the Idomeni camp.
Well, a dire situation there. Philip, thank you very much. Philip Warwick reporting live from Idomeni, Greece, on the border with Macedonia. On to Africa now. In Nigeria, the state oil company NNPC is accused of having failed to remit $16.1 billion in revenues to the federal government in 2014. The revelation came in a report presented to lawmakers at the National Assembly on Monday by the Auditor General. By law, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation must hand over its oil revenue, which makes up to 70% of total income, and money is then paid back based on a budget approved by Parliament. President Muhammadu Buhari won office last May, promising to end the graft and mismanagement that has stunted the continent's biggest economy, and said mind-boggling amounts of oil money were stolen, leaving state coffers virtually empty when he came to power. Now, for more on Nigeria's Auditor General's report, reporter Samuel Okocha joins me live via Skype from Abuja. Samuel, first, we know that these kind of accusations of the oil corporation not remitting money to the central government led Mr. Lamido Sanusi, who was then the central bank governor, to be fired. So what do these revelations show?
Yes, thank you for having me. Basically, it's a confirmation of the allegation made by the former CBN governor. So this report is a kind of vindication of sorts. We've all heard about the corruption going on within the state oil company. And with this audit report, it has just confirmed the concerns many Nigerians have had over time.
What is the reaction, and what do people want to see done to those who may have pocketed this money?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of people want those who have pocketed the money to be prosecuted. But of course, that will depend on what the government will do with this audit report. Already, we've had instances of former government officials being arraigned in courts over corruption allegations and charges. And so Nigerians will definitely want to see someone, getting the hammer for this particular crime in court.
Now, do people also feel that President Buhari is actually fulfilling his campaign promise of completely getting rid of graft?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the campaign promises which actually made the government come into power was to fight corruption. It actually came on the back of the anti-corruption fight. And so naturally, Nigerians would want to see that bit of a campaign promise fulfilled. And from what we've seen on the ground, if there is anything the government is doing more, it is the campaign and fight against corruption. However, Nigeria is also facing other issues that's competing for government attention. The naira has fallen and it has affected a lot of things. Prices of goods in the market have gone high. And so the question now is, while the government is trying to fight corruption, Nigerians also want food on their table.
Definitely a lot to be done. Samuel, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
That is Samuel Okocha reporting live via Skype from Abuja. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Now, coming up, how Liberia's Ebola battle impacted children's vaccination programs. Stay with us.
For a healthier planet.
Saving a tree and creating jobs at the same time. The United Nations International Fund for Agriculture Development managed to do just that in Laos, where the bong tree used in incense production was nearly wiped out. But the UN project encouraged hundreds of residents to begin growing the tree as a cash crop, and it's paid off for both the trees and the people, such as farmer Khan Nun.
The project provided us with bong tree plantations, which has been really a good activity for us and has helped me to provide sufficient food for my family.
The bong tree, says the Agriculture Fund's Stefania Dina, is one of the many success stories coming out of Laos.
This project has been particularly successful because of very successful partnership.
The bong tree was declared facing extinction just 8 years ago, but thanks to the project, bong tree plantations now cover 2,000 hectares in Laos. I'm Rebecca Ward for VOA's Green Beat.
Welcome back. Traders in the U.S. brace themselves for one of the most important market events of the year. In New York, Africa 54 business correspondent Jill Malandrino sat down with Mark Sebastiano of Option Pete to discuss the Federal Reserve's interest rate hike decision on Wednesday.
The S&P 500 has made a stunning rally over the past 4 weeks. Mark, last time we spoke, you said anywhere between 1975 to 2000 in the S&P would be a level that you're looking to sell. Have you adjusted your range at all?
I think that one kind of has to. The S&P kind of blew through 2000. It's now sitting around 2025 ahead of the Federal Reserve. I actually think that until we figure out exactly what the Fed is doing on Wednesday, that it probably makes sense not to try and pick sides here. There are much bigger computers fighting against this market than anything I'm going to step in and do. So where I'm looking more is from a kind of long volatility perspective. I'm looking to trade movement rather than the indexes one way or the other.
So you're really just going to be relatively flat until we get that rate decision at 2 o'clock Eastern. Do you think that we're going to get an interest rate hike, or the Fed is a little bit skittish trying to interfere with the markets at this point?
There is zero chance that we get an interest rate hike on Wednesday. But what I'm more interested in what they actually have to say than any individual hike. Are they going to come out and be realistic about what's happening in the world, or they can continue this whole we're data dependent? The data dependency storyline has been one of the great causes of market volatility over the last 6 months. A Federal Reserve that needs to look at individual data points does not invoke confidence from the market.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Well, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu. What do you have for us today, Lino?
Hello, Vincent. Well, the Ebola outbreak in Liberia led to the collapse of most health services, including routine immunization. The country experienced last year what observers called the worst measles outbreak in years. I sat down with Dr. Francis Kate, Deputy Minister of Health Services and Chief Medical Officer of Liberia. He elaborates on the impact of the Ebola outbreak on the country's immunization process and some strategies in addressing the vaccination challenge while battling Ebola.
There were a lot of things that happened. One was that there was a disease that everyone was afraid of. But I think the key thing here is that you had people with a lot of misconception about how this disease has been transmitted. And with that, vaccination was basically the last thing to talk about, because people were afraid, that if a kid or someone would have been vaccinated, they may be transmitting out of that virus into the person and so forth. So basically, the expectation or the willingness of a lot of people was at a bare minimum. I would say less than 10% people were willing to wanting to send their child for vaccination.
Before the outbreak, can you give us a sense of where the country was in terms of vaccination?
Prior to the outbreak, Liberia had played a major role. One of the things is that Liberia was declared polio-free. Liberia also, in terms of the various vaccines for children and so forth, Liberia was at almost 85 to 90% in terms of coverage and so forth. So Liberia was doing very well.
When you were confronted with this outbreak and you had to vaccinate children, what was the strategy to be successful?
To be successful is using what we learn in terms of containing Ebola. One of the things that we didn't do right was that we began first using military strategy to fight a public health crisis. And that was something lessons learned in Zaire and other places where you had Ebola. Militaries were involved to quarantine a particular area, and then you go in and isolate people and so forth. So we deployed that in Liberia, and we had a very difficult situation in an area called West Point, where military were involved in gun, and someone died from that. So based on that, we quickly learned that you cannot use that strategy. You have to use community engagement. So we began to work with the communities, educate them, get them involved. And the thing is that community engagement also based on trust. So you have to be as trustworthy as possible and tell people exactly what it is. And so when that trust was built, we used that process to now tackle the measles outbreak when it erupted during the time of Ebola.
You mentioned trust, which was definitely something that was critical, because in the beginning of the outbreak, and this is not just true for Liberia, even in Guinea, Sierra Leone, it seems like communities did not trust the government, did not trust the reports, and they didn't believe that either the disease was real or the transmission. So how was the government, the health ministry, able to build that trust to work with the community?
Yeah, I think there were a few things that have helped Liberia. First, it took leadership. The president of the country was involved at every step. She was also in the field. Another thing that happened is that, and sometimes trust comes about maybe based on some difficult situation. For example, if you were informed that you get this disease by touching someone that is ill, and you didn't believe it, but then you saw someone in your house touching someone who was ill, and that person got ill and so forth, definitely you will say, okay, I think they were right. Also, in every community, there is someone in that community who is trusted by the community. So what we did was using those kind of people in various communities, bringing them out, educating them, and they serve as path opener for us to enter the community. You had a consistent message that was clear and that was to the point. And based on that, definitely people begin to build that trust.
And next time, we'll have part 2 of our discussion with Dr. Francis Kate, Deputy Minister of Health Services and Chief Medical Officer of Liberia, as he discusses a strengthening health system and the way forward after the Ebola outbreak. And that's our Africa Health Report for today. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, and thank you very much for joining us today, Lenore. Be sure to watch for Lena on the Do every Tuesday and Thursday for the latest health news in Africa, right here on Africa 54. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, the energetic grandma who became a viral star celebrates another milestone. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Viral sensation Virginia McLaurin is celebrating another milestone. In February, 106-year-old McLaurin celebrated Black History Month at the White House, where she met the Obamas, who joined her in a happy dance. The clip went widely viral around the world. During the meeting, Michelle Obama told McLaurin, "You have just made our day. You know that?" Last week, McLaurin turned 107. She celebrated a big day with 300 guests in Southeast Washington. Among the special gifts, a present from the Obamas, a Presidential Medal of Honor for her years of volunteer service. Well, next up, technology isn't just for humans anymore. It is also for their furry friends. In Silicon Valley and beyond, a growing number of startups are selling devices to keep pets safe, healthy, entertained, and connected when their owners are away. The Treat Cam was created by Petila, which was founded by two veteran technology executives who wanted to get their pets online. The startup also created a social media app that lets owners share pet photos. Meanwhile, Whistle Labs sells a GPS-enabled pet tracker that alerts owners when their pets have left their safe zone and helps find them if they get lost, and lets owners track how much exercise and sleep the animals are getting. Nearly two-thirds of U.S. households have pets, and Americans spent more than $60 billion on them last year. Well, pets come in all shapes and sizes. Maybe this proud papa could use technology to keep track of this frisky baby. A baby kangaroo rescued in remote Western Australia and adopted by a police officer has charmed followers of the police station's Facebook page after video emerged of the joey clinging to his new parent. The Kew police station said the orphaned joey was turned over to police after its mother was struck and killed by a large truck. Footage of the kangaroo jumping into the policeman's shirt and later hopping after him at Kew police station was widely shared on social media. The video has already been watched more than 1 million times on the Western Australia Police Facebook page. And that is what is trending today. Well, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to Voice of America's News Words, where we teach you about words in the news.
When the George W. Bush Presidential Library opened in Texas, all of the living U.S. presidents, past and present, gathered for the ceremony.
One of the things that the Presidential Library's opening demonstrates in many ways is an end to the administration. This is really the last thing that he's going to do as president of this administration, of this group of people.
The word presidential means having to do with a president. Presidential libraries hold the official papers from a president's administration.
Presidential elections are when voters choose a president, often a nation's top public official. Now, when you hear the word presidential,
your English will be good enough to know what this news word means.